What would that do for our faith? I mean, consider this display that Elijah put on. He builds the firewood up and the stones and then soaks it in water and then says, okay, God, do your stuff. Boom, the whole thing is burnt. Man, wouldn't that be great? Probably what we'd say is, I wonder how he did that. I mean, we watched a guy make the Statue of Liberty disappear, right? And we said, wow, I wonder how he did that. Maybe the most important step that we take in our spiritual growth is a willingness to learn, a willingness to see things in a different way. Jesus says, I didn't come to destroy the law, I came to bring it to perfection. I came to fulfill it. We want some display? Let's not look for an Elijah with some magic fire. Let's not look for God to come down out of the heavens and intervene in some bizarre way. Let's simply look at our own experience. Jesus says, live life to the full. There is nothing to be afraid of, not even death itself. If you want to buy into this, he says, die to yourself. Let go. Let go of everything. Look at our experience when we lay heavy expectations on life, on the people around us, on ourselves. Look at life when we become terribly attached to something or somebody. Look at the fear that comes with that. Then look at life when we live it as Jesus says. Don't be afraid. Fear is useless. What is needed is faith. There's nothing to be afraid of. God loves you with the love of a parent. It's all going to be fine. Doesn't mean you won't have to suffer a little bit. Doesn't mean you won't bleed and cry a little bit. But it's all going to be fine. Boy, what more do we need? Our own experience tells us that when all we're concerned about is the little letter of the law, do I have to do this? Would it be a sin if I did this? What a miserable existence that becomes when we listen to Jesus and walk in his steps, live life his way. What we find is fullness of life. We're the miracle that we need to look at. After all, look what we've been through. And we're still here. And if somebody says, how you doing? We say, fine. Yeah, well, what about, yeah, well, sure, I had to do that, but I'm fine. Wow, maybe Jesus wasn't kidding. God loves us with the love of a parent, and it all works out. It's all going to be fine. It has been, it is now, and it always will be.
The Gospel for today is Matthew, chapter 5, verses 20 to 26.
In yesterday's Gospel reading, we heard Jesus say, I have not come to abolish the law, but to bring it to perfection. Now he tells us a little bit of what that means. He says, you've heard, or your forefathers were told, don't kill anybody. I'm telling you, don't be mad at anybody. Taking it that step beyond. That's what we're called to. Most of us grew up in a minimalistic attitude toward God, toward the law. What do I have to do? Jesus challenges us to the fullness of that law. Basically what he's talking about is let's get down to what it's all about. Notice he says, if you don't get beyond minimalism, you're not going to find the kingdom. What's the kingdom all about? The kingdom is all about humanity living in unity and peace with each other. And how's that going to be if we go through life being angry, holding grudges? Maybe what we need to do is find out what's at the heart of it. And what's at the heart of all of it is, I want. They tell the story of the two guys who grew up together who both became prophets. And the one, like Elijah, became a prophet in the court of the king. And he was doing quite well. The other became sort of an itinerant preacher, very poor, had nothing. And one day they met, and the poor prophet said to the court prophet, "Why don't you join me for my evening meal?" "What do you have?" And he said, "Lentil soup. It's all I ever have. It's all I can afford." And the court prophet said, "You know, if you could compromise your position a little bit, you wouldn't have to eat lentil soup all the time." To which the poor man replied, "If you could learn to eat lentil soup, you wouldn't have to compromise your position so much." What side are we looking at things from? How do I get the most stuff in life? Or how do I remain true to myself? How do I remain committed to unity and peace? How do I remain committed to loving everybody? The world out there says, hey, whatever you got to do, you got to get more stuff. After all, we need all these comforts. The person truly committed says, I can learn to put up with this if it means we can love each other more. I have not come to destroy the law. I've come to bring it to fulfillment. And we proudly profess that we are followers of that way.
The gospel for today is John chapter 19, verses 31 to 37.
The feast we celebrate, the Feast of the Sacred Heart, is really a beautiful concept. Jesus' heart pierced, crowned with thorns, on fire with love. I think that many of you who are parents can identify with that. How many times your kids have hurt you? How many times your heart has ached and felt crowned with thorns? And yet they're your kids, and you love them, and there's nothing you wouldn't do for them. That's the message about God's love for us. A heart burning with love for us. A heart wounded, a heart pierced, a heart crowned with thorns, and burning with love. What consolation there is in that, huh? But at the same time, it's a challenge. Where is your heart? The one hymn that we sing, Here I Am, Lord, says it best in its very last line. I will hold your people in my heart. What a challenge that is. And how alien it is to what we're used to. Because we're used to competition. We're used to defending ourselves. We're used to looking out for our own interests. And that tends to be our first reaction to the people around us. And yet we're called to love everyone. I think that's perhaps one of the first keys is to do a periodic check. Where's your heart? We won't always know how to love people. We won't always know what to do for people. We won't always know how to be for people. But if our guiding principle is, I will hold your people in my heart, what a difference it will make, because it will challenge the very core of our daily behavior. It will challenge the very basic reactions that we are so accustomed to. Jesus' heart is on fire with love for you, for me. Oh, his heart is also on fire with love for those people you resent, those people against whom you hold a grudge, those people against whom you're prejudiced. His heart is on fire for all of us. Where's your heart?
The readings for today are Paul to the Corinthians, chapter 5, verses 6 to 10, and Mark, chapter 4, verses 26 to 34.
In his letter to the Corinthians, Paul says he wants to be dead. But he doesn't say it like perhaps we've said it sometimes. I remember the day I wrecked my father's car. I agreed wholeheartedly with Paul. I wished I was dead. That's not what he means. What Paul is talking about is something that we have all experienced. We're searching. We want. And nothing ever seems to be enough. And the only time it is going to be enough, the only time we're going to find exactly what we're looking for, is when we're at home with the Lord. As Augustine said, our hearts were created for you, O God, and they will not rest until they rest in you. And we know that. We experience it. Do you remember? Maybe 6, 8, 10 weeks ago, you fertilized your lawn. Now you know what you're griping about? You got to cut the grass. And you would gripe about cutting the grass until your grass all dies and you got nothing but brown dirt in front of your house. Then you'd gripe about the fact you don't have any grass growing in front of your house. Not too long ago, I was talking to a guy in Phoenix, from Phoenix. He says that one of the problems they're having out there is that their average humidity is rising by 1 degree every year for the last 10 years. And why? Because all of the people who moved to the desert because of the dry climate decided they had to have grass growing in front of their house, and they started watering in front of their house 3 times a day, and the humidity's going up. What do you want? You know how hard it is to answer that question? What do you want? What are you looking for? Oh, I just want to be happy. And then some nut stands up here and says, okay, go ahead. Be happy. Who can stop you? No, and this is what Paul is talking about. While we're in the body, we really don't know what we want. It changes from day to day. We have vague ideas about abstract concepts like peace and happiness, but in the working out of it day to day, we never know what we want. And being human, we are extremely impatient with it. I suppose of all of the parables that Jesus teaches, the one today, the 2 today, are the toughest for me to handle. Because what he's talking about is give it time. And the other thing he's talking about is it's out of your hands anyway. How does grain grow? Well, guy plants some seed. And then, what do you know? It grows. How? He doesn't know. But first there's the shoot, and then the ear forms, and then the grain. How's that all happening? He doesn't know. That's what Jesus is telling us about God in our lives. What do you look to God for? To win the lottery? To get a raise? To get a promotion? No, none of that silly stuff. No, I just pray that my kids will turn out to be exactly the way I want them to turn out. I just pray that my husband or my wife will shape up so we have a better marriage. I pray that the schools will be better, that our country will be better, that the world will be better. Do you ever notice how much of your prayer involves other people? Oh God, take away their freedom and let me manipulate them so that they will be what I want them to be. What if you found out somebody was praying that about you? Oh God, take his freedom away so I can manipulate him. Whoa, excuse me? I want to be free. By the way, what is freedom? Oh, I don't know what freedom is, but by golly, I want to be free. What we're saying is, here we are. The seed has been planted. The kingdom is taking shape. How? I don't know. And that bugs me because I love to be in control. I love to say, all right, now I'm going to do this and this will happen. Can you understand that? Not most of you I know can't, because you're not like that. Isn't that fairly typical? I want to be in control. And Jesus is saying that's not the way the kingdom happens. What you do is you be fertile soil. How the kingdom is going to grow through you, I don't know. But it's going to take time. Be patient. Yeah, sure. Easy for you to say, you don't have kids. Isn't that the cause of most of our impatience? I had a woman call last night. She had a question for Father Gene. He's using props in his homily now. And one of them that he used was his frustration doll. This is a thing that it's just got hair hanging all over the place, and you take it by the feet and you shake it unmercifully, and all the hair stands up and out. This woman called because she wanted to know where he got it, because both of her kids have teenagers, and she figured they could really use that these days. Be patient. Take it as it comes. Isn't that the key to patience? Oh, by the way, if you plug into what Paul is saying about we'd rather be at home with the Lord and away from the body, I think the patience thing becomes much more acceptable when you understand that this is going to take time. I used to have a sign hanging over my desk that said, if I wanted it tomorrow, I would have asked for it tomorrow, which pretty well sums up my approach to life. If I ask for it now, I want it at least an hour ago. To understand that this thing is just evolving and taking time, and that the evolution of it is the good time in life. It's like getting on the merry-go-round and saying, now I'm having fun because it's over. No, the fun of the merry-go-round is the up and down and going around. Why can't we learn that about life? Mostly because we got our eye on how we want to see it. We don't want to see a mustard seed. We want to see the big shrub with the birds of the air nesting in it, and we want it now. Can you imagine how dumb you would think a person if you saw him plant one of those little maple seeds today and then be standing there tomorrow saying, okay, where's my tree? I planted a seed yesterday, but isn't that our generation? We stand in front of a microwave that is doing something in 15 seconds that used to take an hour, and we're standing there saying, come on, come on, come on, let's get it done. And we get that way with ourselves, yes, but with everybody around us too. When is this going to be perfect? When we're away from the body and at home with the Lord. And until then, we're going to continue to be messed up. We're going to continue to be the people who fertilize the grass and then complain when we have to cut it. We're going to continue to be the people who want dry air and keep watering everything around us. That's the way it is. And you know what? When you pull back and look at it and put it into words, it is funny. It is a great laugh. Why can't we laugh more? Maybe we just take ourselves too seriously. Take a look. The seed has been planted. It's growing. When's it going to be done? I don't know. When's it going to be a tree? I don't know. But in the meantime, let's enjoy the growing. What can we do? Just keep yourselves open to it. Keep yourselves open to life. Take it as it comes. The good and the bad, the up and the down. It's like a merry-go-round. The fun of it isn't when it stops. The fun of it is the going around and the up and down. How you enjoying it lately? Want to be happy? Go ahead.
The readings for today are Kings chapter 21, verses 1 to 16, and Matthew chapter 5, verses 38 to 42.
This teaching of Jesus is so alien to our culture today. If somebody hits you on the right cheek, sue him. Have him arrested. Take him to court. Take everything he's got. And Jesus says, no, if somebody hits you on the right cheek, turn and offer him the other one as well. If somebody takes your shirt, give him your coat too. Jesus isn't into getting beat up on. He doesn't want his followers to become doormats. What he does expect of us, however, is a certain detachment from all of these things that the world says are important. In our first reading, we hear how Ahab got his heart so set on having this one particular vineyard. When he was told he couldn't have it, he got totally depressed, went to bed, turned his face to the wall, wouldn't eat. Why? Because he had to have that thing. Jesus says, don't even worry about your personal dignity. Somebody wants to borrow something, give it to them. That kind of detachment is tough to come by. But that kind of detachment is what brings us into the peace of the kingdom.
The gospel for today is Matthew chapter 5, verses 43 to 48.
I think that teaching of Jesus is one that most people have a problem with. On a hot day like today, imagine walking up to a nice, big, full elm tree and having the elm tree say, I'm not going to give you shade. I don't like you. I'll give this guy shade, and I'll give this woman shade, and and I'll give these kids shade, but not you. That's impossible. Everybody who walks under the tree is in its shade. And so it is with God's love. And so we are challenged to love. Instead of saying, you, and you, okay, you, no, I don't think so. That's not the way God loves. God loves everybody. He reigns on the just and the unjust. His sun shines on the good and the bad. We're good at picking out who's good and who's bad, who's right, who's wrong, who's evil. Jesus says, be perfected, to love everyone the same way. What a challenge. How do we go about that? I think the starting point is to catch ourselves doing the opposite. When we catch ourselves looking at somebody as unworthy of our love, it ought to set off sirens in our head. Watch out. You're not talking about love if you find somebody unworthy. I guess maybe the greater challenge is, are we even working on it? Do we even care? Yeah, fine, Jesus. That's nice. I'm sorry, we're busy. We don't have time for nonsense like that. We're too busy deciding who's bad and who's good, who's doing what we like and who's not doing what we like. What a challenge. Remember the tree. It gives shade to all who walk under it. So we are called to love, like God, who reigns on the just and the unjust, and whose sun shines on the good and the bad. So are we called to love.
This is the end of Side 1.